My name is Terry Steinberg, and about 7 years ago, I probably wouldn't have given the death penalty a second thought. I'd heard about it. I'd hear it on the TV, someone was executed, and I'd think, how sad, how awful. But I was a busy mom. I had 4 kids. The youngest was only 4, the oldest 20. And I was busy running kids to and from preschool and football and cheerleading and Girl Scouts and so I wasn't thinking about the death penalty, just that it was awful and it didn't apply to me. And then one day it walked through my door. My son was 20 and he had gotten involved with selling marijuana, just marijuana, and he was selling it amongst his friends. He bought his marijuana from a young man named Danny Petroli. Danny was 22. He was the son of a Secret Service agent, and he was the biggest drug dealer in Northern Virginia, selling about $500,000 worth of marijuana, ecstasy, and various other drugs per month. One night, after Danny dropped his drugs off with my son, it was what my son needed or wanted to sell to his friends. Another young man named Owen Barber, who bought his drugs from Justin, my son, followed Danny from Justin's apartment through Fairfax, where Danny made another delivery, and then followed him out to his home in Haymarket and shot him 10 times at close range through his car window. Owen ran to California to try and hide from what he had done. They found him 3 weeks later and brought him back to Virginia and threatened him with the death penalty. And they told him that if he did not blame this on somebody else, that they were going to kill him. So Owen was in a kill or be killed situation. He had no other choice. So he told the police exactly what they wanted to hear, and that was that Justin told him to kill Danny Petroli. When Justin got the call, I remember him calling me like it was yesterday. He got a call saying that he was being accused of conspiracy to commit murder. Now, they'd never found so much as a seed or a stem or a speck of marijuana on Justin. And he said to me on the phone, he said, "Mom, I have to turn myself in." He said, they think I had something to do with Danny's death, and I didn't. And he said, I may have to face some time for selling marijuana, but it's a first offense. I should be home in a few days. Not to worry. So Justin turned himself in, and I remember that night he was with his friend who said to him, "If you want, you can hide in the trunk of the car and I'll take you to Mexico and you won't have to face this." And he said, "No, I want them to know I had nothing to do with this. I need to clear my name." So he turned to the system he trusted, and hoping that they would help him clear his name. At the time, my youngest child was 4, and we couldn't tell her that he had been arrested. This was her brother that took her to McDonald's and watched videos with her and loved her and carried her around the backyard. And so we told her he was away at school, that he would be home by Christmas. And then they postponed the trial, and the trial wasn't going to be till January. So after Christmas, she said, "Let's leave the Christmas tree up so that Justin can see it when he comes home to get his presents." So they had the trial in January, and it lasted 3 weeks. There were a number of kids that testified against Justin, all of which made deals with the prosecution, because they all faced charges as well. Other than that, they really had no evidence. We had hired a lawyer for this. The lawyer told us there was no way they could convict him. They had no evidence. There was one kid's word against another. Owen had a rap sheet He had aliases. He had guns. Justin had none of the above. Justin had never been in trouble with the law. The only trouble he'd been in was with me because I had caught him selling marijuana, or smoking marijuana. So the lawyer had us so assured that we were going to beat this. And after 3 weeks of trial and testimony, it only took an hour for the jury to decide that my son was guilty. The next day we went back and they started putting up evidence as to why they should not kill my son for this crime that he supposedly committed. They didn't start working on that process of the trial until a few days before the trial began. From what I've learned since my experience through this, they usually work on these mitigating circumstances and learn the history of the person on trial from the very beginning, because it takes months to put together a history of who this person is and how he could come to commit such a crime. It only took them 5 hours to decide that my son did not deserve to live, and that he was to be executed for the crime of murder for hire of Danny Petroli. We met with him after the trial. We got to see him through glass, mind you. And I remember him saying to me, "They really hate me, Mom." And I said, "It's okay. Be strong. We'll get through this." I said, "We'll appeal it. They'll find the truth." The night before they sentenced him to death, I was trying to find something to give my children to hold on to. Christina was a freshman in high school and Wesley was a senior. And I told them, although I didn't quite believe this myself, I said, not to worry. If they give him a death sentence, we're probably better off, because no one will forget that they're going to be killing this 20-year-old, that they're going to be putting a 20-year-old to death. If they give him a life sentence for something he didn't do, he'll be forgotten. Didn't really believe it, but I wanted to set them up for the worst case scenario and give them a little bit of hope that they may still get their brother back. Well, it's been 6 years, and in Virginia we're pretty quick to execute. Justin got down to the death row, I guess in July. The trial's in January and he went to death row in July. And they talk about death row being the place where the worst of the worst live. Now I understand when you go into prison, you have to keep an eye on your toothbrush and your tennis shoes and your soap, because someone's going to steal it. Justin got to death row to be among the worst of the worst, and he arrived to this box where he had nothing except a mattress on the bed, no books to read, no magazines, no anything to keep him occupied, no radio, no TV. And it was going to be a few weeks before he would get any of that. And when you're on death row, you're kept in this box 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're supposed to be allowed out for half an hour, 5 days a week, but that doesn't always happen. You're allowed to shower 3 days a week. So here he was in this box for something he didn't do, and he arrived to find a package, a care package that the other men had put together of books and snacks and treats. And these are the worst of the worst. These are the men that we kill. These are the ones that don't deserve to live. Yet in your general population, they would steal your shoes off your feet if you weren't looking. So Justin gets down to death row. A few days later, I heard about this fast and Vigil with these people that are fighting the death penalty, who are fighting to abolish the death penalty. And here I was, a young mom with these 4 kids, and my oldest has just been sentenced to death, and I didn't know what to do. I was scared to death, and I'm thinking, how do I save him? What do I do next? We hired a lawyer. We thought we were doing the right thing. He turned himself in, hoping that we could prove that he didn't do this.